Allotments in the future. In recent years, there's been an increased interest in allotment gardening. It's been spurred by a lot of things, including awareness of the environmental costs associated with food transport and packaging, and people are more interested in eating homegrown produce. And this increased interest is reflected in the national waiting lists, which you see on the screen here. But more locally in the Bristol area, the City Council administers around 4,000 allotment plots, and in March of 2020, there were over 5,000 people waiting for a plot. It shows that demand far outstrips supply, and thus there's need for new allotments to be created. Traditionally, an allotment garden consists of 250 metre square plots, which are usually laid out in more or less straight rows. Some sites have water supplied from the mains, but there can be a limited number of taps, and if you're far away from a tap, it can be quite hard work to carry water. But a lot of other sites rely on rainwater, which can either be incident or collected. And a lot of people believe that rainwater is better for growing plants anyway. The Drought Risk and You project spoke to a lot of different growing groups, allotment holders, gardeners, professional growers, and for all of the people we spoke to, watering and water availability in the garden was an important concern. And this need for watering is likely to increase. If we look at the climate change predictions for the Bristol area, this table was produced by our colleagues at the Centre for Ecology and Hydrology. Summers are going to get drier and they're going to get hotter. And that means there will be an increased demand for water. Also, storms where you have intense rainfall are likely to increase. There's a lot of information available about how to use water and how to use it in the best way. And so we listened to all the people and read a lot of things, and then started thinking, if we put all the current information about best practice together and designed an allotment with that as the centre, how would that allotment look? And when we were thinking about that, we realised that it would also improve accessibility to allotments. And we were quite shocked when we read that Natural England estimates that around 42% of the population experience some sort of mobility problems. The first area we looked at was water storage and collection. On most current allotment sites, whether to collect rainwater or not is up to the individual. But however keen you are, there's a limit to how much water one person can collect and store. And people have suggested that having multiple plastic water pipes isn't very environmentally sustainable. A centralised system theoretically would be very efficient, but some people would be very far away from it and perhaps not gain much benefit from it. Our analysis indicated that a semi-distributed system where groups of 4 or 6 plot holders shared a water collection of storage facility, such as the one shown on the slide, and it could easily be combined into a shade area or a seat. And the system that we show in the picture stores 4,000 litres of water. Obviously, at certain times of year, there'll be more rainfall than can be stored, and something has to happen to that water. And it could be diverted via French drains into a pond or a bog garden, and that would act as a sustainable urban drainage system to cope with periods of intense rainfall. And it would also provide an area for wildlife to encourage pollinators. A lot can be done through site layout to improve water infiltration and make sure that we make the best use of water that is available. Having paths that follow the contours will reduce runoff and erosion. Having the main access path paved so that people stick to walking on one area and don't compact at other areas is important. If all the paths are wide enough for people to use. That again encourages traffic to stay on the paths. If you have a side hut, it can be used to collect rainwater, but it also acts as a focal point for social activities and somewhere people can store things. Ideally, the site should have a toilet, either a composting toilet, so you're not reliant on water, or it could be built into the hut and perhaps use rainwater to flush the toilets. And bulky materials could be delivered centrally. We already mentioned that there will be a wildlife area. You could have a variety of different sized plots because not everybody wants a big plot. Some people only want quarter plots. It would be nice to have some raised beds and vegetable planters because then people who can't bend down or move freely can grow crops. And if we want to encourage families, we need to have an area where children can play. Once you've got your plot, there's a lot that you can do within the plot to encourage water to stay in the soil. So if you have permanent beds, you confine your soil compaction to specific areas, and structure in the other areas improves. At the extreme, you could adopt a no-dig approach. While face of it, you think that more paths will reduce the cropping area. In fact, better access could actually increase the area that was being cultivated. This is a stylized representation showing 4 plots around one shared water storage area. This water storage area will store about 4,000 litres of water. Each plot is divided into a number of beds, and the beds are 2.6 metres long and 1.5 metres wide, so that you can easily reach to the centre of the bed to do weeding or harvest crops. The beds are separated by walkways, which allow you to move freely with either a wheelbarrow, a pram, or in a wheelchair, and turning circles 1.5 metres wide. You can easily turn a wheelchair or a pram in that space. Once you've got your plot, there's a lot of things you can do through planting to make best use of water. Gardeners have an enormous and increasing choice of possible plants. There are autumn sown plants and perennial plants, which do a lot of their growing during the winter when water is freely available. And then you get your crop in the spring when vegetables are expensive in the shops. The photograph shows Swiss chard. Many common plants have drought-resistant varieties. So in this photograph on the left, the red lettuce, the Logo Rosso variety, is much more drought tolerant than the green cabbage type lettuce. There are all sorts of non-traditional crops which are worth trying. So it's kohlrabi, and the bottom picture, a crop called yacon, which one of the people who came to one of the dry project allotment groups showed us. You can make sure you keep the ground and surface covered to reduce evaporation. And of course, a lot of herbs love dry conditions. You can also do a lot of things to increase the efficiency of water use on your plot. Things like watering close to the base of the plant to encourage the development of deep roots. Mulching to reduce loss of water from the soil surface. Or watering seed drills before you put the seeds in. So we hope by combining all the current best practice into one design that we will be able to reduce mains water consumption, encourage people to have allotments which would improve their physical and mental health, would encourage people to have a varied diet, improve the sustainability of the national food supply. Shared facilities would promote neighbourliness and a sense of place. Sites would be more attractive to families and people with limited mobility, so people might go there more often, and that would deter vandalism. Finally, we'd like to thank everybody who spoke to us about their gardening and watering experiences and shared their knowledge with us. John Elson for his cartoons, And I leave you with this thought: think, do not waste water. Thank you.